Now, Kenyan presidential candidate Raila Odinga says he will respect the verdict of the Supreme Court in his suit against the country's electoral body's declaration that his opponent, William Ruto, won the August 9th election. Mr. Odinga is challenging the decision in the country's apex court, saying the evidence he and his team have submitted is solid. He's been speaking to the BBC's Richard Kagoi.
Well, you see, this is not just about Kenyan elections. This is actually now a universal issue that is being discussed. This the digitization of the electoral process, and particularly when it comes to tallying, transmission, and eventual final tallying of the voter results. That is really the elephant in the room. In the end, there's manipulation of figures through electronic transmission of results, which basically undermines the people's voice.
Should the Supreme Court not grant your wishes or your prayers, would you accept that judgment?
We will say that we believe in the rule of law, and we believe that the Supreme Court will be fair and just in looking objectively at the complaints that we have tabled. As you can see that we have brought in there big volumes of evidence, and we think that we have a very strong case that the Supreme Court will treat fairly. So we believe in the rule of law, and if the Supreme Court rules against us, we will have to accept.
Should we possibly have a scenario where we have to go for a rerun, would you take part, and what would be your conditions for participating?
This time around, one of our prayers to the Supreme Court is to do a retallying, and then which would actually show that we were the winners. Because I'm convinced that we won by over 1 million votes. And if they do the retallying and find us as the winners, then they should announce us as the winners so that we can be sworn in and that ends the matter. However, in the event that the Supreme Court finds that the time allocated is insufficient for them to go through all the evidence and come up with a proper ruling, then of course they can nullify the elections and order a rerun. But our prayer is that they should find the chairman of the Electoral Commission culpable.
I don't know whether you've heard from the outgoing President Uhuru Kenyatta, and if he's spoken to you, what has he said just about the state of affairs as relates to the election process?
No, I've not talked to the President about this matter. As you know that the President is outgoing, and he is basically handling this transition, and he said that they want to be impartial so that the process is done in a free and fair manner.
And your opponent, during the declaration of the results, said that he'd reached out to you and spoken to you. Is that correct?
He called me before the result was announced and just greeted me. And we said ourselves at that time, because we didn't know what was going to come out, that we would meet and talk. We have not met, neither have we talked since that time. Okay, because I don't believe that is the president-elect. I think that should be the president-elect, and he knows it deep in his heart that he did not win these elections, but is a beneficiary of this electoral fraud that is a threat to democratic governance, not only in Kenya, but in the whole world.
That's Kenyan presidential candidate Raila Odinga.